Carl and Liam here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short, and it's getting goosebumps as we're at the penultimate episode of season 2. We are here. I'm very excited. And it is one more difficult one to get through. The Blob That Ate Everyone, the 23rd episode of season 2, and the 42nd episode overall, premiering on July 19th, 1997. It is the 55th book in the original Goosebumps series, first published also in 1997. But it's also received a classic Goosebumps reprint in 2015, which was released as a tie-in to the film Goosebumps, the Jack Black one, which it is a decent movie, if anybody wants to know.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
We have a different director, a name I do not recognize at all, Randy Bradshaw.
So you think maybe this is his first episode that he's ever done?
I didn't check because, like I said, we have our reasons to not check at this point. But I certainly didn't recognize it. The writer Charles Lazier has come up a few times in the past, though, so there is some connection.
Well, let's just put it this way: if this was the guy's first episode, I can see why he's never invited back.
Well, even more to add to that, right? The only bit of trivia that I thought was worth mentioning is the same bit of trivia that existed for the last episode, Don't Wake Mummy. This episode was also made during the season 3 production, but aired during season 2. And that's it. That's the only bit of trivia that was worth mentioning.
That says a lot. But also, actually, I'll take that back slightly because it's probably a bit harsh. Because to be fair, the guy probably didn't write the episode, and he certainly didn't write the book. So R.L. Stine just takes some of the flak, really.
Yeah, this is a clear homage to the Blob. It is. But it doesn't really want to show it's a homage, so tries to do it in a different roundabout way and ends up becoming nothing more to me than an absolutely really boring, unless you like lots of slow motion shots of a typewriter being used, unless that's your jam, this one is forgettable and boring.
Yeah, I didn't remember this one at all, and I'll just put it out there that I think this might actually be the worst episode so far to date that we've watched. And I'm looking forward to seeing if one can beat it, to be honest. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's no secret that at the end of season 2, we will, of course, do a tier list ranking of all the episodes of season 2. And when we eventually get to the entire end, we'll be taking the top 2 categories from all 4 tier lists for 4 seasons and then putting them into their own tier list to hopefully eventually get to what we consider the best Goosebumps episode overall.
Ooh, that's going to be tough because we know we are quite divided in our opinions on some of these episodes, so that'll be interesting.
Well, if you want to go back to a really early episode, we briefly touched and talked about what we would struggle with tier list number 2 for season 2, and it's still there. We're going to have a real problem with this list when it comes to Attack of the Mutant.
Ooh, we'll have to see about that one. Maybe I can twist your arm.
Well, we might have a problem with this one as well because your words of I find this one to be bland and boring, but to call it the worst feels unfair.
I've got a lot of reasons and many elements that come together to bring me to that opinion. I just think also maybe after the previous episode that was so bland, this one isn't a bland episode because it does a lot of crazy stuff. So I'll give it that. But I think I was on a bit of a downer after the last episode, and this just didn't hit for me. But we'll go for it anyway.
No, you are right. Oh, you are. We'll go through it. And for me, I was desperately trying to, it felt like a race to the finish, knowing what comes after this. 2 kids, of course, a boy and a girl are cleaning out a basement and complaining about having to do it. This is Zach, played by Scott Petriangelo, and Alex, played by Gabrielle Bonney. Alex then notices an odd crate sitting in plain view with top secret science project beware written on it. And immediately I went, what? Like, it's sitting in plain sight, and they're like, oh, what's this? Now, we will find out why it's so stupid, but also, I'm also like, dude, you suck as a writer if that's how you're writing.
It's short runtime, man. They gotta
get on with it.
They could have, no time.
Alex opens it to reveal a box full of worms. And I was like, oh, worms! It's been a while. We've had worms.
The dreaded worms that R.L. Stine hates so much, man. What'd they ever do to you, bro?
She plays around with one, but then a giant purple tentacle bursts out. They try to run. Zach is grabbed around the legs by it as Alex watches on in horror. And I was like, I wrote, slow down episode. Like, I know we've got 22 minutes, but fucking hell, this is quick. It's like a minute and a half into it.
Run, Alex!
Well, almost destroying the whole formula of the early fake out being a fake out, man. There you go.
Unfortunately, we will have it. We then get a whiteout, though. A whiteout. And I was like, Goosebumps, what are you doing? You don't go white, you go black. You fade to black.
That upset me, man. I was, I'm always expecting that blackout. Can't do that to me.
No, we reveal it's a story that Zach has written and he is sharing it with his friends Alex and Adam. Adam is played by Brady Wetham. Alex calls it the scariest story he has ever written, and Adam calls it lame before leaving. So there's your characters. That's all you're getting. That's it. Alex is supportive of Zach and a closer friend. Adam is the meanie. That's it.
Yeah, I actually just had this complete random thought, and obviously because this episode centers around a typewriter, maybe this is some sort of metaphor, or like it's based on R.L. Stine being a young horror writer, and maybe he was mocked and stuff like that when he was writing his little horror stories. So maybe that was the thinking behind this, like how Stephen King always has a writer character in a lot of his stories that are clearly supposed to, and that like Drink and things like that, that's clearly supposed to be sort of based on himself. So maybe that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to think there's some basis in truth. I'd also say that this episode arguably inspired the Goosebumps movie, because ultimately this is about writing coming to life, which is exactly what the Goosebumps movie does.
Yeah, because considering this is an episode that I did not remember at all, which is surprising because I remember most of them, then the fact that it is, quite an important episode that they used based on the movie is quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. As Alex and Zach walk away, they pass a store that has apparently been hit by lightning, so they decide to investigate inside. Inside, Alex wants to leave as the place is dangerous. It's a destroyed building. It looks like a destroyed building. So I presume they found one and decided to use it.
Yeah.
Zach, though, excitedly finds a typewriter and goes to take it, but then seems to get electrocuted. It's like an 80s effect of electrocution, if you can picture that.
Look at this old typewriter. My dad used to have one just like it. Zach, are you okay?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Say Cheese and Die camera type thing. Quite similar.
Of course. Well, let's be honest, this is the 55th book, right? Similar to how Stephen King sort of got lazy after a while, after writing so many different horrors about so many different things. And imagine R.L. Stine was starting to run out of ideas and props and things he could do. And so it's like, well, what about this killer lamp?
Maybe that's why he ended up falling out of Scholastic, man, that you mentioned previously. Maybe they were asking him to bang out book after book, and then he came out with this magical typewriters, and people get like lots of worm-based books, and they were like, "This is bullshit, R.L. Like, do better." But like, you know
Write it
again.
Yeah. He gets up, unsure of what happened, but takes the typewriter anyway. Alex rightfully points out that he has a computer. We are in 1997, after all, for writing, and that he can't just take it. So yeah, being a bit sensible here, this is stealing. He tries to argue that the store is wrecked and no one will care, but he's confronted by a woman, Mariam Carville as Mrs. Carter. Yes, this is the second episode in a row with a Mrs. Carter.
Oh, well. See, lazy.
Yeah. Thing is, she's barely in it, so it's irrelevant. Like, I don't even think her actual name gets said. It's only in the credits that I find this, because I want to find out who the actor is, and I see the attached name.
It just goes on and on, these episodes. I start to feel more and more sorry for R.L. Stine, and clearly how abandoned he was as a child, and how absent his parents clearly were.
Upon hearing that he likes to write stories, she says he can have the typewriter. Later, at home, we hear Zach's internal monologue attempting to come up with the first line of his Blob story. And we get an in-joke here as part of his internal monologue references, reader beware, you're in for a scare. And he says, no, that's not a good one, dismissing it.
It's quite a funny little joke, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it doesn't. Do you know why it doesn't work? Because that Goosebumps tagline is good.
That's
Reader
true.
beware, you're in for a scare. Viewer beware, you're in for a scare. That's a good tagline.
To criticize it is, yeah, a bit dodgy.
Yeah. Alex comes in behind him and startles him, and Zach begins to his story. As he writes the first line about the weather, a storm picks up outside and the lights go out. His father, Robin McCulloch, as Mr. Beauchamp, arrives with some candles and remarks about the speed of the storm arriving. He then leaves to call his wife, and Zach continues the story, and everything he writes seems to be coming true. So,
Clouds massed in the sky overhead and unleash their fury.
Hey, where's that come from?
Oh.
This is the first time we see this overriding thing they do in this episode, which is whenever they think about, oh, you wrote that and it came true, we then flash back to keys being typed slowly and like a sound effect. Dush, dush, dush. And the first time it's cool. It happens like 10 times.
Yeah, it does wear thin, that's for sure.
Zach notices himself, but dismisses it and continues to write. He adds a bit about the house becoming darker and empty, and both things happen. Finding his father gone when he goes to get more candles. So, you know where this is going. You're like, well, he writes scary stories. If they're coming true, he's going to write something scary, a blob, and that will be what we do.
Predictable.
Alex now wonders if what he typed came true, and Zach points out that it's just a coincidence. She suggests that the typewriter has magic powers. They decide to test it out, and Zach writes about hearing a knock at the door. Nothing happens for a few seconds, but there it is. They hear a knock on the door. Yeah.
This is why I hate this episode. Because these kids are boring as heck. They have a magical typewriter that they do actually know for a fact. I know it's kind of like they don't believe it. That's what that episode tries to make you think, that the characters aren't really believing in it, but they at some point know for sure that it does work that way. They can type anything and make it come into existence. And the things that they type are the most like bottom of the barrel, boring rubbish. And I know the reason why they couldn't just, kids' imaginations could go wild and type in crazy things. And I know they couldn't do that because obviously budget reasons and stuff, but it's just super lame. Yeah.
It's very mundane. It is very mundane.
Just don't put this sort of thing in there where you're like, you have kids, magical typewriter, anything they type can come true, and then you don't really do anything with it. It's a waste.
No, fair. You make a very strong point. This episode maybe could have gone on the route of being quite ballsy with what was written and kind of standing out for that. But you're right. It's mundane stuff they type, and it never really rises above that, even though you know where it's going.
Yeah, but all they really do is they bring the storm and then they get rid of the storm. And then obviously there's the blob.
Yeah.
And a knock at the door. Yeah.
Yeah, we do build up to what could have been something that I think could have been quite creepy, but it's just Goosebumps, so it doesn't really go all the way with it. As we see Zach go to open the door against Alex's wishes, and when he looks for the peephole, he doesn't see anything. He decides to open it and no one is there. And they realize he didn't write anyone to be there after all. And I was like, that's really interesting. So you hear you wrote the knock, but you didn't write anyone to be there. Now we can go somewhere with this.
Yeah, no, I'll give it credit. I like that, yeah.
That didn't happen. I didn't hear anything.
What exactly didn't you hear?
Zach is still unconvinced, but Alex continues to argue. She then suggests you write someone to be at the front door. And this, I guess, is where you're talking about mundane and boring and bland ideas, as he writes Adam to be there and knocking. It's like, really? We couldn't have done tall, dark stranger, someone creepy, someone intense. But it's Adam.
The costume and prop room was closed that day, man. Couldn't get anything.
They then hear knocking, finding a drenched Adam in his pajamas with a teddy. He can't remember how he got there. And again, briefly, I went, oh, this is really cool. So imagine him he was in bed 1 minute and now he's just here. That is a freaky scenario. However, his acting, and it's been a while since we've slammed one of these actors, his acting is fucking woeful. Like, not just bad, it is terrible.
Well, he's clearly a bit of a younger actor, even more younger than the actual kids in it. So you can tell, yeah, his acting's not great.
What are you doing here?
Whoa! Did we disturb you?
No, I was just putting this back in my sister's room.
Yeah, all right. Come on.
No, it's a truth. And then I had to come here for something.
Did you stand on the front porch before you knocked?
I guess I was trying to remember why I came over.
Zach made you come here.
Alex tells him that Zach made him come over and she shows him the typewriter. Adam refuses to believe her and he decides to show him. So apparently he just dismisses the fact that he's at the door in his pajamas and don't remember how he got there. Just like, that doesn't matter. Typewriter.
See, that's what I'm saying. At that point, they know for sure it works. So
Yeah.
do something interesting, man. Like, I don't know, like a lifetime supply of fucking ice cream turns up at the door or something. You know, something kids would do, you know?
And you know what? They could have easily spent 30 seconds getting around that. What they could have done was have one of them go, yeah, right. Then we get a big bowl of ice cream on the table. He writes it doesn't happen. And then he realizes, because in the flow of a story, a horror story, you couldn't just randomly jam in, oh, the storm picked up, there was a knock at the door, and there was a big bowl of ice cream on the table. It doesn't flow. It doesn't work in a narrative.
Yeah, like completely random. It reminds me of an episode of the TV show Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It has an exact similar episode where she has the typewriter that can do exactly the same things. She can't just write anything. It has to make sense within the overall story. Like, the story has a beginning, middle, and end, and it has to make sense in terms of like what the characters would do and stuff like that. It can't just be a random thing. Yeah.
Well, horror movies have done stories very similar to it as well. So they could have done it in this, but instead they choose to do exactly this, which is they decide to show Adam it works, and Zach writes about the storm ending, and it does.
See,
It's not
the storm
great.
doesn't even, nothing even happens with the storm. I thought it was going to go all fucking like Jumanji, you know, like the house is going to break down, crocodiles are coming in and shit. Like, that's why it's annoying, because it's one of those things where your mind runs wild with ideas, more creativity than maybe they had to play around with. I don't know, but yeah.
Unsurprisingly, the storm stopping is not enough to convince Adam. Alex decides they shouldn't waste their time trying to convince him. And while they talk, Adam sits down and starts to type. He then leaves, and the other two see that he typed about a blob monster living in Zach's basement waiting for fresh meat. So I'm like, okay, here we go. Now this is where we needed to be. Blob monster's there. It's been written and so on. But I don't know if you'd call it a twist or this episode's attempt to try and subvert the obvious, but we'll get to it. Zach is dismissive, but Alex is worried. They then hear odd noises coming from downstairs and plan to make a run for it, but it's right outside their door. It's his father, though, and he checks on him before leaving.
Exciting.
It is, as we're now going to get what I consider to be the biggest glaring error in this episode. We then hear some more noises, and they decide to go check it out. I call bullshit on this. He didn't write his father back. He didn't write him back. He said the house was empty. Lights were off. The only thing he wrote was the storm stopped, and then Adam added his part. He didn't write my father came home or someone came to the house. His father should not be there.
Yeah, but these types of things, you definitely leave yourself wide open for plot errors and plot holes, and you picked up on one.
Thing is, they didn't need to do this either. They didn't need to bring the father back in because they wanted a cheap scare. They just couldn't. Jesus, just actually, you might be convincing me. This episode's pretty terrible. They go downstairs with candles and end up in a basement where everything seems quiet, and Alex is taking the piss. And I don't get this again. I was like, what? Wait a minute. She thinks this is real. She thinks all of this is real. Why would she go to the basement then? She's the one been saying this is real all from the start. If that's the case, why is she now going to the basement where this blob monster could be? But systematically also now apparently mocking the scenario. It felt fucking weird.
Yeah, it's completely out of character, considering she's the one that's been trying to convince him that it's happening, you know?
It's you know what? It's like it's almost like Zach originally had the lines and they shot it and he was doing a terrible job and he did it 3, 4, 5, 6 times and each time the read was terrible. And he went, you know what? Alex, you say the line. You say the line.
She started speaking to her agent like, I don't think that's really my character would say that. Just read the line, damn it.
But of course, because this is Goosebumps, we got a prank first as she briefly gets scared by Adam, who apparently hung around outside in his pajamas to do a prank by the window. And I was like, go home, you fucking freak. Go home, you weird ass kid.
Just go back to bed, you weirdo.
It's one of my dad's garden gloves.
Fresh meat. Fresh meat. Beware the blob monster. Beware Zach's power.
Yeah, real funny, Adam. You should be on stage.
You really think so?
Yeah, the one that leaves at noon.
But then we know, follow up, I forgot I wrote this, with the worst joke in Goosebumps history. To date, the worst joke I've heard in the show.
Well, it must be bad then. It must be bad.
Indeed. Zach says to him, you should be on stage, the one that leaves at noon. A stagecoach that leaves at noon.
Ooh, that's not good, is it?
What the fuck is that? What the
Oh, that's, terrible.
Yep. So the lights are on then, and the kids figured the typewriter wasn't doing anything after all. So, immediately they forget about the knocking, the fact that Adam was turned up at our house in his pajamas, the storm starting and stopping. Nah, don't worry. One thing didn't happen, so the rest didn't happen.
Logically, they should know at that point that it is working. And if they are unsure, then why don't they just actually use the typewriter for something interesting, to see something small, like an apple appeared on the table. Just something small just to prove it. But no, they couldn't even do that.
Nope, because we've got to get to this twist. The next day, Zach is making headway with his story and calls Alex. He reads to her what he wrote about the blob monster attacking the local video store. When his dad comes in, he suggests that Zach invite her over for dinner and then go rent a movie. At the movie store, which I did love that set. Fuck me, was that a nostalgia-looking place.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Zach picks up movies that he would never be allowed to rent, ever. He is in the horror section with movies with covers that made me go, bitch, this is post-video nasty scandal. The rating system is well and truly in place. You ain't getting that past no clerk.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s was a crazy time, but not that crazy.
Not that crazy, no. He's then scared by Adam pretending to be the blob monster. And apparently Adam now has entered full bully mode as he's in denim, got his hair slicked back, and has 2 goons behind him. And I genuinely was like, did I miss a part of this episode when this happened?
I think that in a lot of these episodes, I think, did I miss a scene?
And then we get the second worst joke in Goosebumps history. As Zach follows up his previous zinger by saying that he must be in the jerk section of the video store because Adam is there.
Burn.
It's fucking bad.
Fresh meat. Fresh meat. Fresh meat. You have me in your power,
Jerk.
Hey, think you're ready for Revenge of the Gator people? Kitty section's over there.
Right. I must be in the jerk section.
Come on. Later.
Adam and his boys, come on boys, leave as Zach continues to browse, and then all hell suddenly breaks loose. And randomly just happens. We get a legit, hilarious 2 adults involved in some serious pratfalling, smashing into fucking like props and falling over the place. It is a bit like you can hear what happened on set. Go, like was shouted, and the adults were told us to run and don't worry what's in your way. And it worked for me. I was like, okay, that made me laugh.
Yeah, some entertainment value. Yeah, for sure.
You need some entertainment value in this. Zach, forgetting the fact that all these grown adults are panicking, goes, oh, I'll go have a look and see what scared everyone. And is attacked by the blob monster. He manages to break free as Adam arrives and thinks it is fake and part of Zach's story. And they're like, God almighty. Like, we've now just gone from nothing really happening to something happening and then straight into the standard Goosebumps tropes. I don't believe this. It's fake. You brought this here and made this?
It's always one end of the extreme. Like, you got a child that like believes it too much, or one that believes it too little.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although then hilariously he gets up close to it and then gets eaten. Yeah. And I was like, oh, like he gets eaten, and because I was off, you're expecting Zach to grab his legs or him to get out and all that, and he just gets eaten. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Too often these monsters in these episodes just do nothing, so that was a pleasant surprise. And I always appreciate the use of practical effects and Goosebumps, and they made the blob monster and it looks okay. Yeah.
Little rubbery for my liking. I would have liked to have been gooier, like dripping, that kind of thing. But I agree with you. I think it's probably the highlight of the episode, the practical effect of the blob.
It's true. I've got to get to the typewriter.
Zach races home to a typewriter where Alex is waiting. He tells her what happened and reveals he hasn't written the ending yet. So this is where we realize that basically it's not the typewriter. No, sorry, get ahead of myself. Come back to that. They hear noises outside. Yeah, I just realized it's actually at the end, not here. I thought this is where they discuss it, but yeah. They hear noises outside and Alex says the monster is outside. He has to come up with an ending and fast. So the monster was written to attack the video store, but was not written to follow him home and then attack him, but is apparently.
Yep.
Fucking episode falls apart with the slightest bit of thread pulling.
My brain hurts.
The blob monster bursts in as Zach tries to type his ending about the monster never existing, but the keys get jammed up conveniently.
Ooh, jammed keys.
Damn it. It's too late as the monster breaks in, though, and eats the typewriter. But thankfully, because you figured, oh, well, that's it. He's fucked. The typewriter's gone. But it wasn't the typewriter. It was Zach all along. He had the power inside him. It was him.
Power was in him the whole time. Yeah. Oh, it's an uplifting message. I get it.
Yes. So if you're wondering what the fuck, the only thing I can put this down to is the electric shock he received early on in that brief throwaway nothing scene at the beginning of it, right?
Yeah, maybe it transferred power from the typewriter to him, or that was just didn't mean anything. I don't know.
So basically, the episode ends with Zach thinking hard, and the blob monster disappears and is replaced by Adam. So happy ending there. And then we get what might be the worst ending in Goosebumps to date, because not only do we not get a stinger, but we also just get this really awful closer, which is the two of them, Alex and Zach, looking at each other when Adam says, "What's going on?" They look at each other, go, "You wouldn't understand," and then laugh.
I do. I have the power.
What power?
Forget it.
You wouldn't understand.
And I was like, holy shit, that is honestly like, you didn't know what to do. I can't imagine for a second that's how it ends in the book. It can't. No way. Lowenstein does not write that way.
No, and even then I was expecting like, okay, now he knows that the power is real and it's within him. Maybe he would like accidentally said some kind of thing at the end. He'd accidentally say something, forgetting that yeah, he has the power and he manifests some kind of monster, or maybe he uses the power to bring something exciting to his life, but no, it's just, yeah, terrible.
It is. In fact, I started off by saying, disagreeing with you about it, as we talked it through, as often the case. Yeah, this is one of the worst episodes. Forget the fact that nothing really happens. It features some of the worst things we've seen, some of the worst jokes, some of the worst acting, some of the worst line delivery, so many plot holes. And you can say, oh, we said it, we're overthinking it. It's a throwaway episode. Kids aren't stupid. Bear in mind the age group that this show was aimed at. These kids that are watching the show aren't stupid. This is an insulting episode because it implies you're stupid and that you shouldn't think about it and you should just enjoy, look, blob monster. And you're like, that's not Goosebumps. Goosebumps always had the ability to be entertaining, be cheesy, be silly, try to give you light scares, but also sometimes challenge you in interesting ways. We literally have done episodes. I cannot believe this episode belongs in the same season as something like Welcome to Dead House. How the fuck did that happen?
I completely agree. I think I've probably watched Goosebumps through fully like several times, and I still don't remember this episode. So I think that said a lot by itself. Also, I think it was just a complete mistake to position this episode right after the Mummy episode, because we're seeing maybe too many of these stories where they're clearly influenced by classic horror movie monsters. You've got the Mummy episode, then this one clearly in homage to the Blob. You know, it's just too many. It feels a bit lazy to me to do that, because so much originality and creativity in Goosebumps. Clearly, R.R. Stone has that within him. Maybe he just went to the well too many times with this homage stuff, you know.
I agree, because I said at the start, I don't even think it's a good homage. I think it's one you can just about get to based on the fact that it's called a blob. But if you were to compare that to the original Blob or even the later remake, obviously, you know, you can't do that comparison because they're quite obviously different horror films to a Goosebumps episode. But the idea of the blob monster of this story has a minor part at most. And that's a puzzle. Why is it not in it from the start?
It's a complete afterthought in the episode, and the fact that it's called the Blob That Ate Everyone, you know, that kind of raises your expectations of what the blob might do. Maybe it should eat more people, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, the storm lasts longer than the blob does in this episode. So,
and it's really annoying because the beginning part with the tentacle and all that and the frantic thing had me quite hopeful that because that tentacle as well as a good practical effect, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, we're gonna keep this hot and heavy throughout. But yeah, beginning and end is where the speed is. Everything else in between is just slow, monotonous flashes of typewriters talking about what to do next. And as we've pointed out several times throughout it, not really doing anything.
You know, with the amount of horror that we both watch, I'm sure we can both agree that if you're going to be terrible, at least be memorable, you know.
That it's been said in a bazillion reviews on the site. It's been said a bazillion times in videos. The ultimate cardinal sin for me in horror is boringness. You can be a shit movie, but do not be boring. Give me something that I go, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Oh my God, that's so terrible. Oh my God, this. But don't be boring. That's the least thing you should do in horror.
Yeah, and especially like this, where you have a plot device where you can do anything. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You do nothing, pretty much.
I think on that note there, that last line will leave this one. The Blob That Ate Everyone. Got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl as well as Big Cartel where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?